but today we will be talking about socializing when dining out. Apparently, according to McKinsey survey, 78% of the Saudi consumers prioritize socializing when dining out. So today we will be talking with the panel of experts that I will let them introduce themselves shortly. So please, Mr. Henrik, starting with you.
It's working? Yeah. Thank you so much. So my name is Enrique Diaz. I'm the Middle East Hospitality Director for DLR Group. Been in the region since 2009 actually, but in Dubai just for the last 12 years, and we basically do hospitality and mixed-use projects.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
Please, Talha.
My name is Talha. I'm in Riyadh from last 14-15 years, and in the hospitality industry around 18 years now, working as Director of Sales and Marketing in a Radisson Blu Hotel. We recently opened, and my previous experience with all the top brands. And thank you very much, especially for DMG and you, giving the opportunity.
Thank you, Talha.
Hi, this is Yasser Jad. I am the President and founder of Saudi Arabia Chef Association, and I'm working also as an advisor and consulting for a government entity. Plus, I do create menu and concept for different private segment. Thank you.
And Chef Yasser is also busy with the competition, so he'll have to leave us shortly. But we'll start, Chef, with you. Chef, as the president of the Saudi Arabian Chef Association, what are... Let's clap for the chef. What are some of the emerging trends and preferences among Saudi consumers when it comes to the dining out? And how can dining establishments in Saudi effectively balance the cultural, the great spirit of the kingdom with innovative social experiments?
Okay, since the population of Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh mainly, or in general in Saudi Arabia, like 90% or 80% are Saudi, and let's say 20% average SPAC, that have certain behavior for the consumer. So the market been growing very rapidly for food and beverage for the couple of years ago. There were so many new concepts created by Saudi company and by Saudi chefs, by young guys that have a combination of authentic cuisine, Saudi authentic cuisine, in addition to international gastronomy. Could be casual dining or even goes to fine dining. But the consumer, I guess, in the same family, you find the group of people that the younger generation, they are going for a kind of casual dining and a kind of bite meal and snack and so on. So whether international or Arabic or Oriental, the demand is too high in the market, and there are so many segments need to be filled in. Even in the Saudi cuisine, still there is a big space to be filled, because Saudi cuisine is not just kapsa or mandi or whatever. There's so many dishes being highlighted by Culinary Art Commission since they've been formed in 2020, and those are covering the whole region of Saudi Arabia. I mean, 13 area, and they register from Asir, from Qasim, the cuisine in the UNICEF, and they announce also the main Saudi dish from the earth of Saudi Arabia, from the original ingredient, like the wheat. Rice is not the original ingredient, but the wheat now been posted a lot, and they have like a dessert called makshush, which is from representing Saudi Arabia gastronomy, and the jarish itself, also again from the Saudi whole barley or whole wheat. What I want to say that the market is really wise, and the growth of this food and beverage very rapidly, and again, it's subject to supply and demand. In addition to this, the bloggers, they post a lot. The social media helps a lot, in fact, to socialize people, to encourage, I guess, people to go and try different gastronomy with different way of marketing. This is what I can say that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Chef. And just follow-up question to this before you run to the competition. And obviously it's a competition, so it's a showtime. The question to you really is it about the quality or it's about the experience? And how can you combine and balance it within such a quickly changing demographic and such a growing market?
No, definitely experience. Alhamdulillah, I mean, finally now there's an international school going to open soon in Riyadh. Cordon Bleu, it's been announced, and they are going to have a big campus, and that will give the skill. Because gastronomy, I mean, your first requirement is the skill. Ingredient also very important, definitely, but if you have a quite qualified chefs to deliver the requirement, wherever requirement, that will help a lot to make the market also stable and to support Sawadization. Ingredient also, yes, because sometimes if you talk about supplier, they are saying we are sometimes suffering a little bit because the supply and demand is not very clear. For instance, if you require some ingredient for Japanese cuisine or for certain area where you need very specific ingredient, and the supply is not really the demand is not very, constant, that will have an impact in controlling the shipment and ordering. I think still, as I said, the market is huge, and the Saudi people, I'm talking about mainly Saudi, young Saudi, they have still a chance to learn with more than one school, I guess, will open in Riyadh, international school. That will help a lot to improve, in fact, and also to go for the next step, which is infusion Saudi, because some of our dishes are really nice, single original ingredient, not too many complication, focal on quality of the meat, quality of the ingredient, where you can get a lot of taste, but still it have a box and space to improve those dishes in terms of how to present them in the menu, and how to make it very flexible to be in fine dining or casual dining. Because as you know, we serve in our culture a lot of ingredient whole, like whole lamb or whole fish, and that need to be twisted. And still, I mean, people are improving a lot, and the market is accepting. Like if you go for cities where they have, like Jeddah or let's say the western part of Saudi Arabia, people are used to take the seafood in certain manner, If you twist it, they might not accept much because they used to eat it in certain way. But still, there's a space to improve and to increase the turnover, because it's still very expensive to deal with the ingredient as whole. We don't deal with the portion from the margin point of view. And this is what we took. We have since first day, we have a culinary challenge called Mastery Books Challenge, and we invite 8 hotels from Riyadh, and every hotel they have to cook and deliver a 5-course menu, and they have to use at least one of the dishes. It has to be a Saudi dish, because we have a special award for the Saudi dish with simple. Actually, we surprised them with the ingredients, so they are not. They wish to have a very simple and rich ingredient, but we give them some kind of hard time in order to deliver the 5-course menu in 2 hours, plus mocktail competition. Also, they have to have the Saudi flavor in the mocktail, and also coffee. Barista, they have to infuse the. So this show you that how the market, hotellery mainly, I mean in general, and gastronomy have a space to improve. And I guess you are one of the guys who add the saffron in the coffee.
Yeah. That's correct. That's correct. Well, thank you very much, Chef. I guess we asked you about socializing versus ingredients. You said it's about the experience, but then you ended up talking about the products and giving the hard time at the competition. So thank you very much, Chef. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Just for the sake of, please go ahead, Henrik.
Can I just add a small thing? Because I like when we talk about experience, guest experience. And I remember a time where the important part was the food. not the actual space where you are going. You were going, and not if the plate was well done or pretty enough for you to take a photo, but it was about the skills, it was about the quality of the ingredients, the way that you cook. And I believe that we shift that to the Instagram moment. Quite good for me because we do F&B spaces and hotels, but at the same time, the food stopped being the center of the experience, and it became a second plan. And the space and the design and the Instagram moment and the vibe of the space become the most important thing. I would love to go back to the part where the food was the most amazing experience that you could have inside of a space.
Well, it's partially your fault because you are doing so much good within that space. Anyhow, but we'll come back to that, Henrik. Talha, did you want to add anything towards this subject?
Actually, yes, as he rightfully said, gastro theaters is very famous nowadays, which is basically the experience. We should go back to the taste as well. And there is best restaurants here, especially the standalone restaurant, and they are doing fantastic job by fusioning the food. I recently have an experience of having a fusion, which is kapsa croquette. So they make a kapsa with a croquette. So it's an experience, but with a good, nice taste. So yes, both are important, but we need to go to basics as well.
Well, excellent, thank you. So perhaps we can ask you, Henrik, as a principal at DLR Group, how do you see general status, architecture and design in immersive dining experience here in Saudi Arabia? What is the status? What are your views and how do you see the upcoming years?
I remember being here for the first time, 2009, where you had a couple of restaurants and that's it. That was the main chains, the Friday TJs, and so that was the main food served in a restaurant. And that was a bit not aligning with the actual experience that you can have in Saudi and the culture of food in Saudi, because that was not the market, or that was not the identity of Saudi. I think there's two ways of you designing a space, or there are two ways of architects designing these days. And the first one is to design the space that it could be here, or it could be in Dubai, in New York, in any place in the world. And yes, you have a nice experience, you have a nice design, but you don't have the identity where the restaurant is located. So for you to go to, I'm not going to name restaurants here, but for you to go to a restaurant here or have the same experience in Dubai, if the chain is the same, you end up having almost the same design, or the same feeling of the design. What I believe is happening right now in the kingdom is the spaces have been designed, or at least the second part of the aspect of the design is the space are being designed for the location, for the region, for the identity and the culture of the country, instead of just being a design for the franchising or for the pretty picture. So there's that identity right now that I believe it's quite important when you are designing a space and you are trying to attract people to go to your restaurant instead of going to any other place.
Allow me to ask a follow-up question on that note. Can you give us a couple of examples of your group, what you've done here in Saudi, particularly in regards to the localizing and applying these principles?
Yeah, we have a project in Habham, a project called The Point, where there's an hotel, a canopy hotel that we designed, and we designed the F&B space for that hotel, and it basically, what we created, or what we, the intention of that design was to bring the Asir region culture and to align with the identity of the restaurant. It's a Moroccan restaurant. And we wanted to be sure that that Moroccan restaurant, it's for that region, it's for Asir region, with the culture of the patterns, with the colors, with the materials, with the identity, and combine that identity with the actual food that you're going to serve. So we never wanted to create a Moroccan restaurant that you could have if you go to Morocco, But we wanted to create a restaurant that is not going to be repeated in the same way or the same type of design outside of Abha, because the identity is for that place.
Amazing. Well, for those who haven't been to Abha, I encourage you to visit, and it's perhaps one of the most wonderful areas of the kingdom. I was lucky enough to find wife there, and I only have one, regardless of the availability or allowance within this region, nevertheless. Talha, moving to you, if I may. From the perspective of a hotel chain like Radisson Blu, what are some of the key challenges and opportunities in integrating social elements into dining experience, while you mentioned previously that you would like to focus on the product?
True. See, the opportunities are the challenges, and challenges are opportunities here. So, when I'm saying this, integration with the technology is an opportunity as well as the challenge. Same goes for the training of staff, brand loyalty. These are the challenges. We need to educate the consumer, and it will become our opportunity. And so, if I'll say that basically the quality and the service we are providing, we are the service industry, and our basic service. So, if you'll provide the best service along with the taste and the dinner stuff, this is what we'll have basically. The challenge.
Perfect. If I may, as a follow-up to this, how has your hotel group adapted in dining offerings to cater to the unique social preferences here in Saudi particularly? And are there any differences across the regions?
Particularly in Saudi, there is some new trends here, especially as I mentioned, theater style dining, where you will have a complete entertainment on the table and along with the experience of the taste. Same goes for communal dinner. It's very famous now, and it is basically a social norm here in Saudi to have a community meal, but brands like us is multiplying it, and part of it we also have, it's a tapas style food is very famous nowadays. We are having a community sitting together, enjoying like a family style, along with new technology integrations, and a part of it also AI is playing a big role. We come to know about our consumers' behavior. It's easy for us to know, to record with the data, and to judge it for the future. So it's very helpful for us.
So, just to understand, have you done anything differently between one region to the other?
Again?
Have you done anything differently in applying those principles between one region to the other?
Definitely, yes. Especially in my hotel, we have a concept. It's called the tapas style terrace restaurant, where we are serving a communal restaurant along with the new requirements, which is now a big thing, like shisha serving or having a complete setup with the family. So yes, we are doing it separately as a communal style food, along with the technology integrations there.
Thank you. Well, Henrik, moving to you, if I may. Some would argue that there are potential risks or challenges associated with creating overly themed or gimmicky dining experience versus applying the right principles to the restaurant business or to the hospitality businesses. I'm sure that you've had a lot of challenges when there was a revolution, so to speak, in the kingdom, and when we needed to merge single and family sections while still being, let's say, adaptive to quickly changing demographics while respecting the rules at the same time. So what have you done specifically within this part, and how was your communication with the owners here in the kingdom?
It's quite nice to see the difference or the direction, how how to design a space before, especially hospitality, how we were designing a space before for the region and how we design a space now. And it's also incredible to see that there were already a couple of developers or a couple of owners that were trying to push for what's happening right now in the market. So I remember designing spaces where you have the double entrance and you have separation, and then the kitchen, and the way that the kitchen was working for those spaces, the way the staff were entering from one side or the other side, so the doubling of everything. And now we reach a point where, because this becomes a more traditional approach of how to design a space or how to design an area, it allows you to treat the space as one and treat the experience as one, instead of treating this as two different hotels with two different F&B units, or with two different experiences that you're going to have inside. So the renovations of those spaces were actually done quite fast, because the need or the expectation of the new generation and expectation to change and to create new concepts and to bring new identity for the spaces and to bring a different, special experience, definitely, to the going out, because there's a huge tradition in everywhere, but here in the region you can see it very well. The gathering around a meal, it's the most important part of it. You can see in the evening the restaurants and the families and friends. So everything it's about food, and everything it's around food. And it was quite nice to see that different happen inside of F&B, where you have in the entire families, and you have a communal space, if you want to use that as an expression, to have the space where you have everybody enjoying the same experience, or enjoying the same identity of the space. So that was quite incredible to see, especially on the timeline that happened, or the speed that happened.
He wasn't anticipating.
No.
The decision and the announcement was on the Twitter, and
and
it starts tomorrow.
Immediately it starts tomorrow, and everybody wanted to change and to adapt the new direction.
Actually, on that note, Talha, how was Radisson Blu during that time? How was your group, and what you guys have done, knowing?
I would say let's talk about the future. Next 10 years, with the vision, we are growing very good. We are changing things drastically. It's amazing how we have done. But what the plans are coming, not only for our brand itself, everyone with the vision of 2030, things are going amazing. And Gen Z, Gen X, they are, as really said, that every time the restaurants you go full, they are enjoying the experience. Now, most brands trying to sell the experience, basically. And that's what we have done, and we are doing it.
Thank you, Talha. On the note of Vision 2030, if I may take a little bit of liberty and say something to the audience, I believe that everyone has a mandate and responsibility to contribute to the Vision 2030, and also to reflect on the emerging trends, on how to define the space for the coming years and for the years beyond 2030, how the Saudi will evolve, what will be the movements of the demographics, what will be the movements within the kingdom, within the giga projects, and how to reflect on the authenticity and hospitality that it's very much so in veins of the kingdom. I mean, we are, at the end of the day, incomers to the country, we are foreigners, and it's our opportunity and responsibility to contribute to the vision. On that note, Henrik, if I may ask you, how do you see, or what are some of the emerging trends or innovations that you can be excited about and you can foresee for the coming years here in Saudi and in the region?
Regarding food and design surrounding food, there's a lot of this new trends, not exactly new, but it's becoming more trendy. This theme type of AI interaction where you actually not only have the food, but it's like going to the theater, and you have an experience where between on the touch, on the flavor, on the lighting, on the setup of the actual design, One thing that I'm actually quite intrigued and I quite like is the restaurants had the huge scale before, and now if you don't go to the big brands, of course, if you go to the boutique restaurants, and there's a lot of restaurants opening right now here, and that means a lot of new concepts and new designs for spaces, it's quite nice to see that scale now became not relevant for a project, and it's more the identity and the size of the restaurant that you have to serve a different type of food. It was quite nice to hear this, the part of bringing fusion, and sometimes people don't accept this fusion because they know how to eat the entire lamb and how it's served and how that, right? But if you think, as an example, Massimo Bottura, when he has a signature dish that's basically, it's 4 pieces of, I think it's tortellini if I'm not wrong, that you need to dip and put on the soup. And when that was created, there was a backlash, a huge backlash, because that was not Italian food. That was not the correct way of doing it. You shouldn't serve only 4 portions, you should serve 7 portions. How can you do this too? And for 2 years it was, and you can see that there's a documentary about that. For 2 years, it was quite of a challenge for him to try to explain this new direction. And I think the same thing is happening everywhere, where the fusion, even if I don't like the word fusion, because everything now is a fusion, but the interpretation of the Saudi cuisine, and to bring that Saudi cuisine for that Instagram moment when you take a photo and you bring flavors from different locations, but the identity of the food or the flavor of the food are still there, but you just don't serve the way that you were serving before. I think that is quite exciting because it will allow you to again bring the F&B and to bring the design of spaces to a different, in a different location, different direction, right? So I can see the growing and the trend of creating not only new concepts, not only create a new type of menu or approach to the Saudi cuisine culture, but at the same time that to be the inspiration to the actual architects and designers to design an F&B space and to design that identity regarding the food and regarding the space where they are located.
Let me add it here. So there is a dietary requirements are also emerging with the trends. There is different kinds of meal plans are coming, carnivore, organic food. So these are also big time emerging here, and integrating with the local cuisine is little challenging while taking care of the wastage management with all these ingredients using with locally sourced players. So these are also trends, and people are very conscious about it now to have it their dietary requirements. So also the restaurants which is in the market, they are having different kind of menus now. They are showing different trends to have it to cover all the customers basically.
That waste management is quite nice to talk about, because I remember when we were designing hotels and you have two or three bins and you put everything inside and you send it to the garbage and that's it. And now you have the operators that actually know the quantity of the food that they are wasting, the way that they are peeling carrots and how that goes to that location, and that will tell you that in the end of the month, through data, that you could utilize that in a different way, so you can actually be more sustainable and you can actually be more conscious on the way that you are cooking. So that's quite, all of that affects the design of the spaces, affects the areas that you need to utilize. Your waste management areas will increase, as an example. So the back of house becomes the heart, but in a different way, because now it's measurable and for the actual guests, and it's measurable for the experience that you're going to have.
Smart.
Yeah, I think that it's incredible to reflect on the same, and actually for those who may not be aware, Today there are apps in Saudi that allow people to procure the items that are near to expiry, procure the items in order to donate, you know, to utilize this as zakat and give away to the people in needs. And I just want to touch on fusion. I've spent 8 years all in Batil, and one of the innovations that we have had during my time was a Saudi latte, and the latte was purely done because we were upset that Saudis were drinking Spanish latte in Saudi Arabia. Malesh, ana asif. Okay, so we've done this as a fusion of cardamom, saffron, and we did kahwa, Saudi coffee. Now we have to say Saudi coffee according to the Ministry of Commerce and Ministry of Culture guidelines, and we fused that with espresso, and we added a little bit of date molasses. So sometimes it's the opportunity, sometimes it's a mandate, but having the right approach and the right balance, I believe it's the best way forward. And I think the gentlemen have spoken a lot about optimizing, viewing, foreseeing, and anticipating the future. So perhaps we have little time for questions from the audience. If anyone would like to ask, please go ahead. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Haris. I represent IBL Group. I have a question for Enrique. I quickly read on your website that you're based out of Dubai. We work in similar space. So clients everywhere are, different. So my question to you is that you've worked in the Middle East across. What is the difference that you see in the clients coming out of UAE and the clients coming out of Saudi? Local restaurants, perhaps, their specifications, their requirements, how are they different, these two groups?
That's a good question. Dubai, just because of the expat community for the last 30 years or 40 years, if you go there, you have every type of design and every type of cuisine and every type of food, but you will see that probably there's more international concepts than pure local concepts. What I'm telling you is, doesn't mean that there's no local concepts, of course, but the amount of international concepts there, it's different from Saudi. And what I see in Saudi that I'm really happy is this growth of the actual food concept, cultural food and local food, more than the international brands. And don't get me wrong, the last 2 years, the number of international brands that are coming and opening are exactly the same, the ones in Dubai. But I like this approach of how to preserve the identity of the culture and the identity of the food, and to bring that to the new century. And you see that the way that people design, right? You have areas for Samani architecture, Ijaz architecture, so Naji architecture. So there's an approach to culture and to interpretation of culture that becomes the ethos of the growth of the design or of the country. So that it's quite different. It doesn't mean it's better or worse in comparison, but it's quite different. The same thing you can see, if I can use an example, Oman spends a lot of money to not to be the future. Spends a lot of money to still have the same identity and still have the same feeling that they had 50 years ago. So it's just a different way of exploring or trying to create an identity for the country. And I think that Saudi is going to grow really fast, and it's going to have, because of the amount of culture that exists on this country, there's going to have a balance between what comes from outside, what comes from international cuisine, if you want to use, and how the cuisine from Saudi will be interpreted for the future generations.
Thank you.
I may add to that, 7 out of 10 Saudi nationals wants to invest in F&B business or wants to own it. 40% of the population are expats. So let's compare that to the UAE. But only 1% of the expats are Westerns. So then you can refer to the same when it comes to your potential demographic and the consumer spend. All the giga projects today are focused on the Saudi nationals, rightly so. We are in the kingdom. The tourists, that is 100 million, it's actually 55 million domestic travelers, and a lot of them are GCC as well. So I guess perhaps the main variance between UAE and Saudi today, or territories nearby, is the demographic, but also the demographic is impacted by the real estate and the flexibility of moving around, as we all experience traveling to this beautiful exhibition today. صح? Anyhow, I guess respecting the culture, understanding the movements between the cities is the most relevant during such an evolving market that we see today. Please, gentleman behind.
Hi, my name is Dipankar Zalpuri. I head the MENA region for a PR agency. Because I love PR, and rightly pointed so that I love numbers as well. My interest is in the topic still, the entertainment revolution. What always, living in Dubai and living in other cities in the world, what always entertains me is the social aspect of a crowd, because that's why you move when you travel to different countries. You want to know the local cuisine, you want to dine with the local people. But here, this is my first time to Riyadh, and at 2 a.m., the local coffee shop is buzzing. The restaurants are shut, but the coffee shops are buzzing. People are still eating food. What's, from a entertainment standpoint, Radisson is expanding. I follow Radisson because we work with hospitality. My question is to you, Mr. Tala. What is it that you see as the evolution? I wouldn't say revolution because it's a very heavy word to use in this situation, but looking at the experience that you have, what is it that you predict to be the next social norm, and you can support it, Enrique, from a design point of view, because we've seen it all. Now what's new? What's the next step? I think that's not as yet spoken about. That's my interest.
Thank you very much. Very good question. As per the McKinsey recent report, 78% of locals prefer to dine with the traditional system, traditionally cuisine, especially in Saudi Arabia, I'm talking about, was mentioned in entertainment. So if you'll see this number, it's a huge number, 78%, and they prefer so hotels and restaurants, standalone especially, they're going on this direction to have it a traditional style restaurant, from the name to the design to the cuisine. And not only this, sustainability, it comes here, then they go under food management, wastage management, all these things, but especially as you mentioned that design, 100% people locally, they prefer the traditional style. And this is where the most chains, along with my chain, we are working on this direction from the name again. And we already discussed here the fusions with the local cuisine, as I'm beginning, I mentioned an example of kapsa croquette. It's a fusion. So, and it's very famous nowadays because, again, locals wants to have their traditional food. I hope I have answered. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. And I believe, Henrik, did you want to add anything?
Just a small thing. In terms of design, it's a bit more tricky because everybody wants to design the next big thing, right? In terms of space and in terms of identity. And everyone is always trying to rush for that next big thing. But in my opinion, if you start thinking the restaurants are still open, are the ones that don't follow trends. Trend on the design, trend on the food, trend on, it's more about identity, products, and guest experience, right? So even if I agree that let's bring AI, let's bring laser shows and firework inside, and even if I believe in all of that and create all of those new trends, I still believe that it's more about consistency and it's more about a space that creates a feeling or gives you a feeling when you go inside, and that's that space where you bring your family and you feel that you are having dinner, not having dinner with a show. That are the consistent ones, that are the ones that keep going and keep growing, and they don't close and they don't follow the trend per se.
Well, thank you everyone, and thank you for listening, and that brings us to the end of this session.
Thank you.
Thank you.